Relic is a haunted house story without a ghost. Edna is a poor soul being tormented, not by a demonic presence or a poltergeist. Kay and Sam are destined for the same fate, but this is not a curse. Good evening and welcome to Midnight Movie Club and my Relic explained video. It is my goal with this video to clear up any confusion you may have had when the credits began to roll at the end of Relic. This should go without saying, but major spoilers ahead for Relic. And also, if you have not already, make sure you are subscribed to join the club and keep up to date with all of the content. I do have a review up of Relic, so if you haven't seen that yet, you might want to go check it out first and then watch this. I'll leave a link for it down in the description box below. But enough chat, let's get into it. So to recap, Edna lives alone in the Australian countryside. Her mind has clearly been deteriorating for some time now, as her home is covered in post-it notes, reminding her to do simple tasks. Do not follow it, one of the notes reads. Unfortunately, Edna forgets this and must follow whatever she has been seeing come into her house out into the bush as she disappears for 3 days. After hearing about her disappearance, her daughter Kay and granddaughter Sam come to her home to help the police search for her and keep the house in check for her. Kay brushes off Edna's disappearing act as being down to her old age and failing mind, her early signs of dementia. She doesn't bother telling the police that Edna had thought someone had been coming into her home. Then, as mysteriously as Edna goes missing, she returns, but she is not quite the same. She isn't the Edna Kay and Sam remember. Edna has brought something back with her, or in other words, has something inside her now. But it isn't a creature from space or a demon or anything like that. It is her dementia. It has now took hold of her mind and she starts to succumb to it over the course of the film. Dementia is the monster of Relic. Everything that happens throughout the film is just a physical manifestation of the disease. The mould throughout the house seems to stem from the stained glass window that is from the old cabin that used to be on the property and now is all that is left of it. Kay mentions that her great-grandfather spent his dying days out in the cabin as he was forgotten about by everyone else because he had lost his mind and went mad up there. Kay also mentions that there were a bunch of stories surrounding what happened to him out there and that she just reckons that he wasn't cared for the way he should have been. Obviously, way back in the day, dementia wasn't as accepted as a problem as much as it is now, and what was going on with him could have been attributed to more supernatural factors, so people stayed away and he was neglected, and in the end, he died alone. His body seemed to leave a mould in the floor of the cabin, and with its window being used in Edna's home, it seems to have spread around Edna's house now too, a sign that the dementia is growing within her. We see similar mould-like blotches all over Edna's body as the film goes on, more and more appear. Eventually, by the end, she is able to reach inside them and her flesh peel. The mould is just another physical representation of the dementia as it infects the household and Edna. Sam and Kay also hear thumping, clawing and scratching throughout the house, sounding like it is coming from inside the walls. This, I believe, is actually coming from Edna as she is lost in the closet in the inner house that is this maze-like labyrinth that shifts on whoever is inside it, confusing and disorientating them. I believe she was lost in here and that is why she was gone for so long. She didn't know how to get back out as it's always changing on her and she just lost her way. Later on in the film we see Sam struggle in this inner house as well just before Kay catches up to her, and it is sad to think that Sam is kind of peering into her future. With dementia being hereditary, she too could end up being as confused as she is in this moment, but not just for the moment, the rest of her life. This is just a taster of what is to come for her. In the thick of it, during the final act, we see Edna stabbing at her body, rejecting it, as she doesn't feel like herself anymore, as she has said that the house doesn't even seem familiar anymore, not even Kay and Sam do. This scene where she is in the bathtub is just heartbreaking as she stabs and attacks her own body to feel something, anything like she did before, trying her best to get this decay and corrosion out of her, but all she is doing is speeding up the process. As Edna is chasing Kay and Sam through the shifting in our house, I don't believe she is doing so to kill them or harm them in any way. She is doing it to make sure she is not alone in a body and a house that she doesn't recognise. And it is in this section that Relic goes full horror with an intense chase sequence. Edna's leg breaks and she is forced to crawl after Kay and Sam, which makes it even creepier, and it all comes to a head where Kay and Sam are smashing their way out of the inner house and back into the main house. See, Kay and Sam are strong enough to break out of this place. Edna isn't. So as they are escaping and she's yanking Kay back, it isn't because of some demonic force wants her to, it's because she doesn't want to be left in this place that scares her all alone. She wants someone to be with her, to care for her, to love her, and not die alone like Kay's great-grandfather. As the action comes to a head, Kay rejects her mother's desperate attempt to gain their attention and in turn care and affection as she smacks her, laying her out. As we think it is all over, Kay and Sam are about to leave. Kay looks back at her dying mother. We see another post-it note, with this one reading, "I am loved." Kay then decides to close the door on Sam and return to Edna. She then takes her up to the bedroom. She couldn't leave her, because if she did, she would not have been loved in her final moments, and she would have suffered the same fate as the great-grandfather in the cabin. The mould and decay of Edna would have seeped into this house like the grandfathers did in the cabin. Kay then undresses Edna and then undresses her flesh. It is a disturbing image and will be hard for those who are squeamish to watch, but is also quite beautiful. Then once Kay has stripped away the flesh of her mother, all that is left is this new decaying Edna inside, but Kay doesn't reject her, she accepts her as her mother as well, loving and caring for her in her final moments. Sam then shortly enters afterwards and accepts this new Edna as well. The three of them lay down together. Edna can now find rest with her loved ones beside her, knowing that they accept who she has become, even though it is a far cry from who she used to be. Then with the final image we see Sam check Kay's back to see a spot of mould that has developed, condemning Kay to the same fate as Edna. I think it is best put earlier on in the film when Sam says, "Is that not how it goes? Your parents wipe your arse and change your nappies, and then when they're old, you change theirs." That is the way it's meant to be, and Kay had to accept it. And in Relic, Kay had to undress her mother, revealing her new form, and someday Sam will need to do the same for Kay. Obviously, this is not what actually happens with dementia in real life, this is fiction, but my god, did Relic manage to capture the emotions of families going through this so well. I really do hope this video helped you better understand Relic if you had any confusion over it, and maybe if you didn't like this film as much as I did, appreciate it a little bit more. If there was anything I missed or any questions that you feel are unanswered, please drop them in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to have a wee chat with you down there. As I said earlier, if you haven't already, make sure to check out my review here on the channel, and if you did enjoy this video, then please do hit the like button, it helps out massively, and if you haven't already, then please do subscribe to join the club. As always, thank you very much for watching, and good night.